continue his book, Ihya Ulum Al-Din, and he is addressing now how you practice, how should we practice humility. And as Imam Ghazali always talked about transformation, about changing of behavior, he would diagnose what are the things a person should think about in changing their attitude. Therefore, the opposite of arrogance is what? The opposite of arrogance is humility. But Imam al-Ghazali said the following, rahimahullah. He said, اعلم أن هذا الخلق كسائر الأخلاق له طرفان وواسطة فطرفه الذي يميل إلى الزيادة يسمى تكبرا وطرف الذي يميل إلى النقصان يسمى تخساسا ومذلة والوسط يسمى تواضعا. And تخساسا, he says this from الخسة, يعني المذلة. يعني he says this behavior has two extremes. The extremes of it is arrogance, and the extremes of it, the other side, is considered humiliation, not humility, humiliation and low self-esteem and belittling oneself. The middle is humility. Therefore, this is about how we think of ourselves and how we view ourselves. Either go to the extremes and we enlarge ourselves and become arrogant, or belittle ourselves, it's called humiliation. The middle is humility. This is very important in addressing this issue, because sometimes a person will think that they're humbling themselves, but they're belittling themselves. والمحمود أن يتواضع في غير مذلة ومن غير تخاسس. What praiseworthy is the person who have humility without humiliation, without belittling themselves. فإن كل طرفي القصد الأمر مذموم. He said the extremes, both extremes, are blameworthy. It's condemned. And the most beloved to Allah in the affairs of people are affairs that are balanced and in the middle. وَحَبُّ الْأُمُورِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَوْسَاطُهَا. فما يتقدم على أمثاله فهو متكبر ومتأخر عنه فهو متواضع. أي وضع شيء من قدره الذي يستحقه، والعالم إذا دخل عليه إسكافه وتنحى له عن مجلسه وأجلسه فيه ثم تقدم وسوى له نعله وغدا إلى باب الدار خلفه. Then he says, for example, if you have a peer, your peer in your level, if you allow them to go ahead of you, that is humbling oneself. If a person then does not allow anyone except him to be in the front, that is arrogance. But a person goes and belittle themselves in the level that does not match their caliber. For example, if somebody, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equipped them, say a medical doctor, went to medical schools, spent a lot of money going to medical school, and then come to his mind or her mind, in order to be humble, I should go and do a job had nothing to do with medical. I have to go and, for example, serve food, whatever it may be. Although the serving food is a good job, but the job is not matching their the skill set. That is not humility. That a person have let go the skills that have learned to show humility in a place is not considered humility. For example, if somebody, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have placed them in a position where they will be able to convey message, to talk to people, or a person be in the positions of teaching, whatever position may be, and shaitan come to them and say, well, you know what? Don't do that anymore. Be humble. Just forget about it. That's not humility. And the example of this, of Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he come to know that Egypt will be in trouble, if he did not take that position, actually it was a government position, with the same system that have put him into jail. But he realized that he is the one who have a skill set to save the entire Egypt. And therefore he said to the king, make me in charge. I'm wise, I'm trustworthy. I want this job. Just like people do in the resume. When a person applies for a job and put in the resume, they have this education, they have this skill set and so forth. That's not arrogance. That's actually describing what you can offer. It will be humiliation and belittling oneself when a person denies the skill that they have. Somebody says, we need somebody, is anyone hafiz al-Quran here can lead the prayer? And the hafiz al-Quran says, I'm not going to say I'm hafiz. And then somebody else lead the prayer that doesn't know how to read the Quran. That the person have let go of responsibility. For humility, it is not belittling oneself. And I'm going to go to the opposite of it, inshallah, in a minute. But المحمود عند الله سبحانه وتعالى العدل, to be balanced. وهو أن يعطي كل ذي حق حقه. Somebody is a scholar, somebody is a teacher, somebody is a doctor, somebody engineer, somebody is a person who provides service to the community. Each person has to be given the due respect and due rights. Don't exaggerate. Don't enlarge a person more than they should. It's very interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, and I mentioned that many times, when the prophets speak to their people, sometimes they may have animosity against them, they may mistreating them, but they call them Ya Qawmi, O my people, to establish a kind of a relationship. They tell them, I care about you. And Allah sent Musa and Harun to Fir'aun, قُلَا قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا, speak to him softly, لَعَلَّهُ ذَكْرَ وَيَخْشَى. You have Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wrote letters to kings, but he called them by the title, إلى هرقل عظيم الروم, to Herakl, the leader of the Byzantines, to Kisra عظيم الفرس, the leader of the Persian, Al-Muqawqas عظيم القبط, the leader of the Coptic community. He gave them the title that the dunya have given them. He didn't take it away from them. Sometimes we, in being passionate about something, we forget the sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, give everyone the right they deserve. فينبغي يتواضع بمثل هذه لأمثاله لمن تقرب منه درجته. يعني be humble in the people that your colleague at work, your peer, and so forth and so on. فبالقيام والبشر في الكلام والرفق في السؤال. He said, أما تواضعه للسوقي, he said, a person should also be humble with the average person. If a person, you cannot create an elite society. When you say your peer, that doesn't mean a person should look down to other people. He said that a person should be with the average person, the suqi, when you see them, stand up for them and smile on their face and so forth, and be gentle with them. And respond to a da'wah, an invitation. Don't socialize with your social class, so-called. If somebody invites us to their home, somebody asks us to join them in food and so forth, don't see who's inviting you in terms of social status. Every human being, every Muslim, every person is an important person. There is no person in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be less important except with piety and in the heart, matter of the heart. But everything else in matter of dunya, we should not belittle anybody. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to accept invitation from someone who does not have anything except vinegar and dry bread. No magluba, no biryani. Vinegar and dry bread. If somebody invites somebody today to their home and provide them something like this, subhanAllah, I don't know why he invited me. All he has, vinegar and bread. Like, they should have went out of their way. Hamza Yusuf was reading to me the other day, translation he made of a poem of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It was so moving, the translation itself, that how Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was very humble in everything he does. The problem is we created an environment that so about self-centered. Sometimes we get overwhelmed ourselves with the glory In the matter of fact, the best man walk on this earth, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, went to seventh heaven, Isra al-Mi'raj, came back and he milked his sheep. He fixed his shoes. He washed his own clothes. He helped in the household. A person gets just promotion in their job, little bit promotion. Or a person have so much followers in Instagram. Oh my God, khalas. Millions followers. They don't walk slowly on earth. They fly. This all in the head. You die, you want somebody to make dua for you. You don't like this following, It's just it's a sickness. We become obsessed with this. And sometimes because of how much follow you may have, you think that you can pass judgment on people. وَالسَّعِي فِي حَاجَتِهِ, that you see a person in need, help them, take care of them. One of the things we have to do in our community is our elder. That door of Adam Center, for example, very heavy. The handicap button has to be working all the time, because I have seen all elderly people struggling with the door. والسعي في حاجته الضعيف أمير الركب. the most vulnerable person, controlled the caravan. وأمثال ذلك وأن لا يرى نفسه خيرا منه. Every time you see a person, when it comes to in the eyes of Allah, don't think that I should not think that I'm better than somebody else. كل ابن آدم خطاء. Every human being make mistakes. وخير الخطائين التوابون. The best people who make mistakes, the people who ask Allah for forgiveness. Every human being. كل ابن آدم خطاء. This kind of understanding is very important in the issue of humility. فلا يحقره. A Muslim should not belittle another person. ولا يستصغره. وهو لا يعرف خاتمة أمره وخاتمته. Sometimes you might make a judgment. Somebody say this person is doomed, and that person might make it to paradise before me. Allah might give them repentance. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them and so forth. This holier than thou has to end. Sometimes we walk in the masjid, we judge on the sisters, her hijab, how it looks, that young person, how his pants look like, and we judge people. You know, we don't know how that person's life will end. وخاتمته. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our end to be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not how you begin the race, it's how you end the race. It's not how you begin it, it's how you end it. فإذا سبيله في اكتساب التواضع. How then a person gain humility? A person should become humble to their peer first, ولمن دونهم, and those who are less than them. حتى خف عليه التواضع المحمود في محاسن العادات ليزول به الكبر عنه. A person should practice humility. You know arrogance, where the arrogance begins. How you know arrogance? What is arrogance? Remember the definition of it? What is the definition of arrogance? How do I know I'm arrogant or not? Huh? You think better than somebody else. Rasulullah defined arrogance, rejecting of truth and belittling people. As Sister Dr. Amna said, that when you look to people down, you see them like less than you. By Allah, every time I go to Hajj or Umrah, I consider those people around the Kaaba, they're Jannah dwellers. Jannah dwellers. Maybe the poorest person among them. Do you know some people go to Medina and go to Umrah? The entire time they eat bread with rice because they could not afford meals. Because all the money they have saved is just to get them there. But they don't have money to spend in eating other than that bread, costs 1 riyal or 2 riyals. And they eat bread with rice. Nothing else. What brought them is the love of Allah and love of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nothing else. They're not in 5-star hotels. You know, they have taken the transportation, the cheaper transportation, to move from one place to another place. Barely they made it. That's all they eat. I met some of those people. And then when you go to Jannah, you find a person whom living in a small village in Pakistan or Egypt or Palestine or ahead of us in paradise. There's some of them are consider them the hidden awliya. And then by being humble oneself, we're not doing anyone the favor. Sometimes people says, "Oh, I was very humble. I was cleaning the masjid." That arrogance. If a person believes that cleaning of the masjid is beneath them, that person is arrogant. If a person believes that helping in the household, vacuuming his own house, make him humble, that's arrogant. Because in our head, because arrogance is a tree that grows in the heart. If a person believes that their act they're doing is the act of humility, but they're not believing that they should have done this, that's an act of arrogance. Has to be natural. فإن خف عليه ذلك فقد حصل له خلق التواضع وإن كان يدخل عليه وهو يفعل ذلك فهو متكلف لا متواضع. It says when a person becomes easy for them to be humble, then become humble. If it's difficult for them, mutakallif, that means the person showing to try to show off that they are humble but not humble. Like sometimes you have politicians show up in soup kitchen during election time. A person has to do this as a habit, not to do it for popularity. فإن خف ذلك وصار بحيث يدخل عليه رعاية قدره حتى أحب التملق والتخاصم فقد خرج إلى طرف النقصان ويرفع نفسه. Then he said that some people then exaggerate. You ask them, do this. No. I want to be humble. Do this. I want to be humble. And or a person have nice clothes, have a nice soap, go and make a hole on it. And then put another green things, the white things, and they say, you see, I'm humble. Come on, buy the nice clothes. Humility, as Imam Malik said, rahimahullah, he said, az-zuhd. You know what zuhd is? What is zuhd? Huh? Yeah, detach yourself from the material world, not become attracted to the material world. A man said to him, Imam, you're not zahid. You're wearing nice clothing, you dress well, you have a nice house, you have a nice horse. What's happened to humility? Zuhd. He said to him, this is not zuhd. Zuhd not to go and to try to drive a car that breaks every time in the highway. You can afford a nice car. Zuhd is not for you to say, I'm going to wear a clothes that look like, it's not a good cloth. No, he said zuhd is when the dunya, having it or not having it, become the same. Having dunya, having it or not having it become the same. When Allah give it, alhamdulillah. When Allah take it, alhamdulillah. When you pass age of 40, dunya is down, going down. And therefore, there's nothing become, not to have you to feel bad, but more likely, the best of it, material world, enjoyment, is going to go down as human being. Imam Ghazali said, if you are not ready for Jannah, then you are in trouble. It's very important. A person looks at their life and see the certain things in life that we do, and alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for them. Something we make mistakes on them, something we think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how we think about life. But when it comes to humility, a person should not belittle themselves. Sometimes somebody says, this is wrong Sharia-wise. A person comes to you and says, you violated the Sharia. Then you ask them, how much you know about Sharia? Tell me how you violated Sharia. X or Y action. Whether it is halal or haram, where it fill in categories. I don't know. If you don't know, why are you making a judgment? Some people says, I'm not a doctor, but then they give you an answer. Come on. I'm not a scholar, but I'm going to give you an opinion. You heard that before? If you don't know it, don't say it. And a Muslim, one of the things, like in interfaith work, let me just mention this. In interfaith work, there's some Muslims belittle themselves. They get in the gathering and they want to be liked. If I said, for example, Allah mentioned Musa alayhi salam in the Quran more than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they're very happy with that. They're smiling. I said, this is not true. This is a lie. Allah mentioned Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than Musa alayhi salam. Both of them we love Musa and we love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Allah mentioned Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more than Musa alayhi salam. He didn't mention by name, but he mentioned all over the Quran, Rasulullah and Nabi, Rasulullah and Nabi. This is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know what I mean? Therefore, we cannot do something that to belittle our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, astaghfirullah al-azim. To say Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was less important in the Quran. This is not true. You get my point? To elevate somebody no, we believe in Musa alayhi salam. Musa is our prophet as well. But it's not true that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was mentioned less in the Quran. And they think that, let me tell you something, your prophet is more important than our prophet because we mention more in the Quran than our prophet now. It's not true. It's not true at all. You're defeating the purpose. You get my point? Therefore, you have to know where to. This is not humility. Especially, you cannot make humility by humiliating somebody else or bringing somebody down. You know? Astaghfirullah al-azim. فليرفع نفسه ليس للمؤمن أن يذل نفسه. He said the Muslims should not belittle themselves and always have to be in the middle ground. By the way, extremes in anything is horrible. Whether it's in sports, whether it's in food, whether it's in politics, any extremes is not good. On religion, there's some people just, I don't know why, they believe everything is haram in Islam. The haram is easy for them to say something in haram because I'm not sure it's haram. There's some people go to the extreme, everything is halal. And Islam is the haram, what Allah made haram, and the halal, what is considered halal. Halal ubayyin wal haram ubayyin. Whatever is lawful is clear, what unlawful is clear in Islam. And he said the middle ground is the Sirat al-Mustaqim. I love Imam al-Ghazali. He bring it back home. He said, be in a straight path, you are a middle ground. Sirat al-Mustaqim. وذلك غامض في هذا الخلق وفي سائر الأخلاق. He said then people are not clear, they're confused in this virtue of humility and in many other virtues. You remember I said that before, the humility, as Imam Ghazali said now, there's arrogance and there's this low self-esteem. There's bravery and there's what? Recklessness. Somebody drive their car 100 miles per hour in highway and going between people like this, zigzag, and say, oh, he's very brave. That's recklessness. The difference between bravery and recklessness. Therefore, and also the being just, fair, and being harsh. You can be just and kind. You know? Therefore, people mix the virtues. Somebody says, I'm very firm parents. But what they meant that they are very mean parents. Being mean parents. Have you heard of mean parents? They're screaming all the time. That's not being firm. A person can be firm parents and still kind. والميل عن الوسط إلى طرف النقصان هو التملق أهون من الميل إلى طرف الزيادة وهو الكبر. He said, it's better a person belittling themselves than being arrogant, although both are bad. Both are bad. But making a mistake in belittling oneself better than making a mistake in being arrogant, although both are wrong. كما أن الميل لطرف التبذير في المال أحمد عند الناس من الميل لطرف البخل. That if a person spend a lot of money, giving away money, sometimes excessive giving is called tabdhir, or israf actually. Israf. Tabdhir is spending money in haram. Better than stinginess. Therefore he says, a person either hold back, being stingy, or just give without measure, without balance. The middle, it is called wasat, which is Islam telling us, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولَةً إِلَىٰ عُنْقِكَ. Don't hold your hand. وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ. And don't just spend. Strike the middle ground. And same thing, let me talk about marriage a little. A man comes to me and says, my mother asked me to do something, my wife asked me to do something. Whom should I listen to? You heard that question before, Dr. Amna? Like, my mother is my father, my wife. I said to him, you know the best answer for this? Fulfill the rights of your mother and fulfill the rights of your wife. Strike a balance between the rights of your mother and the rights of your wife. It depends what your mother asking you to do. If she asks you to do something wrong, don't do it. If she asks you to commit injustice to your wife, don't do it. If your mother asks you to do something, it is not essential for her, but your wife asks you to do something that's essential for them, that obligation they have to fulfill. If your wife wants to do something not essential for her, but essential for your mother, do what's essential for your mother. And the best thing you do is to have good relationship with your mother and your wife. But have your wife to have direct relationship with your mother, and your mother direct relationship with your wife. Get out of the middle. Don't be in the middle. Have the relationship with themselves. That's the best thing you do. You know? Now, he says, he said the arrogance, which is the nihat al-takabbur wa nihat al-tadallul, but the person go to belittle themselves, the extreme of belittling themselves, and self-beating, beating oneself, is not acceptable. And enlarging oneself, which is arrogance, is not acceptable. What is then the psychological aspect of this? Let me explain to you the psychology of this, and then we end the class. Time Maghrib? 4:49. Let me explain the psychology and then have you to ask questions. The psychology of this is the following. Any self-elevation, enlarging oneself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish a person for it when he's looking down to people. And any kind of humiliation of oneself is a person that does not reach their potential. They will not be able to have growth, even spiritual growth. Then how do we mentally, psychologically, understanding oneself? 5 things. Number 1, in the matter of dunya, of what Imam Ghazali called being with our peer, we have to not have hasad, jealousy, and envy. Because jealousy and envy lead to arrogance. Because we want to elevate ourselves over them, and therefore we have to backbite them, we have to put them down, we have to slander them, so that we can emerge as the most righteous, the most good people, and so forth. And that's a sign of arrogance. For a person should ask himself, why am I doing this? Why backbiting people? Why slandering people? Why WhatsApping people? Why, what is it for? The second aspect of this is that the self-evaluation that happens every night is extremely important of understanding our boundaries. What boundaries we have crossed. Every day in our interaction with people, either we are exhibiting humility or arrogance. Have I rejected truth was given to me because I don't want to be found to be wrong? Have I considered somebody else's opinion? Have I listened to my spouse? Have I listened to my children? Have I given them a chance to speak? Or I dominated the whole thing and didn't allow them to say anything? And so, am I self-centered? Am I want to be served rather than serving people in my home? Am I sitting there and everybody, I'm the king and everyone around me have to serve me? Am I doing what Rasulullah used to do? Am I serving other people? Because this could be a psychological problem, being self-centered, self-focused. The third is that we have to be careful of our social environment. The elitist social environment. My father, rahimahullah, said to me, do not stop visiting sick people or attending janazas. Going to hospitals and following janazah and burying people. Put things in perspective. The other things, by the way, he gave me another advice. He said that you might meet important people in your life. He said you have to remember things about them. He said give them the title the dunya give them, but remember that they get sick, they die, they be resurrected, be questioned before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are like anyone else. The other thing is that in this issue of humility, we have to establish a culture of humility in our own home with our children. What I mean by this? Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a little girl will hold his hand. Jariyah. You know, I've been thinking about this. Why the example was a little girl? Why can't تأخذ بيده الجارية? Why a little girl hold his hand and said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to tell you something, and Rasulullah goes with her? Because how the society also looked to women at that time. And the little, and children. And therefore Rasulullah paying attention to a little child who is a female child and holding Ya Rasulullah, and then Rasulullah go with her, showed him want to show him in the street. That we have to believe. The last things, there's no person in the Muslim community does not have something to offer. Because sometimes we think only a particular group of people. In this masjid, for example, the board have something to offer, the executive director has something to offer, the imam has something to offer, the muazzin has something to offer, the person who cleaned the masjid has something to offer. Every person has something to offer. A person donating $100,000 or the person donating $1. All of them are equal in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's an attitude that he built a community around it. That's why Rasulullah was not happy when he came to the masjid and he missed the woman who was cleaning the masjid. He said, what is she? He said, he died last night, Ya Rasulullah. Why didn't you tell me? We didn't like to disturb you. Rawi al-Hadith, the man who read the Hadith, قال كأن مستحقر أمرها. As if they have, they said to themselves, she's not important. Don't work up Rasulullah for her. Rasulullah did not accept that from them. You know what he did? He went and delivered Salat al-Janazah to her grave. There's no big shot in the eyes of Allah. Not Imam Magid, not all the mashayikh you see online. All of them are going to die, huh? Big names. They become janazah, become casket. It's not going to last for anyone. It's a matter of time. And therefore, everybody in the community is important. But I want to say one thing, though. There's some people that make themselves the important. My opinion, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to do a massive campaign on WhatsApp until you come to your knees. No, I'm not going to do that. You do the right thing. No matter how many emails, there might be a million WhatsApp. If you do the right thing, stick with it. No intimidation. Me personally, I'm going to tell you, I don't get intimidated by those things. I don't. For a person have humility. All of us have humility. But no one above mistakes. All of us make mistakes. Do it in a humble way. Don't believe that only your opinion is correct opinion. Imam Shafi'i said, rahimahullah, he said that he did not engage in anyone in dialogue without praying the other person to be true. Has the haqq with the other person, because if you do so, you learn. Because you know why? Because you used to get into the debate with a good intention. No humiliation. You don't like to humiliate somebody else. You get to engage with giving somebody advice, correcting somebody, not with the intention to humiliate somebody, and you don't do that. Any questions? You have 2 minutes. I get a lot of comfort reading Imam Ghazali. Any questions? One of the things I want you to do, inshallah, I want you to see it, all of us, have a dua buddy. Dua buddy. Other than your family. You make dua to your family all the time. But choose once a week to say, this week, me and Brother Uwais can make dua for each other the whole week. Then next week, somebody else. It brings our heart together. You know, the problem is this heart become heavy. We need to clean our hearts. We have so much negative things in our heart. Sleep all night. A person should not make dua against another Muslim, no matter how much they're wrong. This is my opinion, by the way. That make dua to Allah guide people. Make dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purify our heart. You know, the end of the day of judgment, Allah will stop us before they enter paradise and clean our heart before we enter Jannah. Because He doesn't want us to, with heavy heart, to enter paradise. Because you might dislike somebody in this dunya, but he end up going to Jannah with you. What are you going to do? You're going to say, I'm not going to enter in Jannah because he is entering Jannah? Allah will have us in Qantara, and then we'll purify our heart, and then we'll enter paradise. Inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.